My best friend slept with my fiancé 3 days before our wedding while I was caring for my dying mother. When I found out, I made sure everyone at the ceremony knew exactly what kind of woman she really was. My name is Natalie. I'm 29, and let me back up. 6 months before my wedding day, my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave her 3 months, maybe 4 if we were lucky. My fiancé, Marcus, and I had been planning our dream wedding for over a year. We'd put down deposits, sent save the dates, booked a venue at this gorgeous vineyard 2 hours outside the city. Everything was perfect. Then my world collapsed. My mom lived alone after my dad passed away when I was 17. She'd been my rock through everything, worked 2 jobs to put me through college, never complained once. When I got the diagnosis call, I was at work reviewing contracts for a real estate deal. I remember my hands shaking so badly I couldn't hold my phone steady. The oncologist's voice was gentle but firm. Aggressive treatment might buy time, but someone needed to be with her 24/7. I didn't hesitate. I took a leave of absence from my job, packed a bag, and moved into my childhood home that same night. Marcus understood, or so I thought. He kissed my forehead, told me he'd handle the wedding planning, said I should focus on my mom. My best friend since college, Victoria, promised she'd help him with everything. "You take care of your mom, babe. We've got this," she'd said, squeezing my hand with those perfectly manicured nails. The next 3 months were hell. I watched my vibrant, independent mother shrink into someone I barely recognized. The chemo ravaged her body. She couldn't keep food down. Some nights I'd sleep on the floor next to her bed because she was too weak to call for help. I was changing diapers, administering morphine, holding her hair while she vomited, and somehow trying to stay sane. Marcus would visit on weekends, but he always seemed distracted. His phone would buzz constantly, work emails, he'd say, wedding vendor calls. I was too exhausted to question it. Victoria came by twice, brought flowers, stayed for maybe 20 minutes each time before claiming she had to run. I remember thinking how distant she seemed, how she wouldn't quite meet my eyes. I was spending 18-hour days caring for my dying mother while planning a wedding I barely had the mental capacity to think about. Marcus and Victoria handled everything. The cake tasting I couldn't attend, the final dress fitting I had to reschedule 3 times, the rehearsal dinner planning. They were my support system, my lifeline. Or so I thought. 3 days before the wedding, my mom had a good day, her first in weeks. She was lucid, smiling, and she gripped my hand with surprising strength. "Baby, go home. Take a shower that lasts longer than 5 minutes. Sleep in your own bed. I'll be fine for one night." She'd arranged for her hospice nurse to stay overnight. I almost argued, but God, I was so tired. I hadn't seen my apartment in a week. I needed clean clothes, needed to check on wedding details, needed to remember what it felt like to be a bride instead of just a caregiver. I should have stayed. I drove back to my apartment that night around 9 p.m., feeling lighter than I had in months. My mom was stable. The wedding was in 3 days. Maybe, just maybe, things would work out. Maybe she'd make it to see me walk down the aisle. The apartment was dark when I arrived. Marcus had texted earlier saying he was handling some last-minute vendor issues and would crash at his place. I didn't mind. I just wanted a hot shower and my own bed. I dropped my bags in the entryway and noticed something immediately felt off. There was a wine glass on the coffee table. 2 wine glasses, actually. The expensive bottle we'd been saving for our wedding night was half empty on the counter. A woman's blazer was draped over the back of the couch, cream-colored with gold buttons. Victoria's blazer. I'd complimented her on it a month ago. My heart started pounding, but I told myself there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe they'd been here finalizing wedding details. Maybe she'd left it behind by accident. Then I saw the heels by the bedroom door, Victoria's designer heels, the ones she wore to every important event and bragged about being 3 months' salary. My hands were shaking as I walked down the hallway. The bedroom door was slightly open. I could hear voices, low and intimate. I should have announced myself. I should have called out. Instead, I stood there, frozen, as my brain tried to process what my ears were hearing. "We need to be more careful." That was Marcus's voice, breathless. "She's not coming back tonight. She texted me 2 hours ago saying she was staying with her mom." Victoria's laugh was soft, almost cruel. Besides, she's so exhausted she'd barely notices anything anymore. "After the wedding, we should tell her. I can't keep doing this." "Tell her what, exactly? That you're miserable? That you've been having second thoughts since she became a full-time caretaker? Please, Marcus, you're getting cold feet because you feel guilty, but you'll get over it." "What if I don't want to get over it? What if I want to be with you instead?" The silence that followed was deafening. Then Victoria spoke again, and her words turned my blood to ice. "Then you should have thought about that before you proposed to her, before you let her move in with her dying mother while we spent every night together in her bed. You're stuck now, baby. The wedding's in 3 days. Everyone's coming. Just get through it, and we'll figure the rest out after." I heard movement, the bed creaking, his voice again, weaker this time. "One more time before Saturday, then." I didn't wait to hear more. I backed away from the door, my legs operating on pure autopilot. I grabbed my phone, opened the voice recorder app, and hit record. Then I moved back to the doorway and let their voices fill the recording for another 5 minutes. The bed springs, Victoria's moans, Marcus saying her name, my best friend's name. When I had enough, I stopped the recording, saved it with 3 copies to different cloud services, and walked out of the apartment as silently as I'd entered. I sat in my car in the parking garage for 20 minutes, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. I wanted to scream. I wanted to go back up there and destroy them both. I wanted to drive my car into a wall and make all of this stop. But then something cold and clear settled over me, a kind of rage I'd never felt before. They thought I was too tired to notice, too distracted, too broken down by grief to see what was happening right under my nose. Victoria had suggested she help with the wedding planning. She'd volunteered, and Marcus had let her, knowing exactly what would happen. How long had this been going on? Weeks? Months? The entire time I was watching my mother die? I drove back to my mom's house in a daze. She was sleeping peacefully, the nurse reading quietly in the corner. I went to my old bedroom, closed the door, and opened my laptop. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I checked our bank accounts. Marcus had access to everything since we were getting married. 3 months of transactions I hadn't reviewed because I'd been too busy keeping my mother alive. Hotel charges, restaurant bills, a jewelry store purchased for $2,400 labeled VL in the notes, Victoria's initials, wine deliveries to my apartment on nights I was gone, Uber receipts from her place to mine, dozens of them. The evidence was everywhere. I'd just been too devastated to look. I spent the next hour downloading every transaction, every receipt, taking screenshots of everything. Then I checked Marcus's iPad, which he'd left at my mom's house weeks ago. We shared an Apple ID. Every text message synced. The messages between him and Victoria went back 5 months, right after my mom's diagnosis. They started innocent enough, her offering support, him venting about the stress. Then they turned flirtatious, then explicit. There were photos I'll never unsee, plans they'd made, Victoria suggesting hotels, Marcus complaining about me being emotionally unavailable and not the same person anymore. One message from Victoria, sent 2 weeks ago. Think of Saturday as your last hurrah before settling into a marriage with someone who's basically a hospice nurse now. We both know you're only going through it because you feel obligated. His response? I know, you're right. I just wish things were different. I saved everything. Every single message, every photo, every transaction, every piece of evidence of their 5-month affair that they'd conducted while I was watching my mother die. Then I did something they'd never expect from exhausted, grief-stricken, distracted Natalie. I started planning. The wedding was in 3 days. The venue was booked. 200 guests had confirmed. My mother, against all odds, was stable enough to attend in a wheelchair. I wasn't canceling anything. I was just changing the script. The next morning, I woke up and put on the performance of my lifetime. I texted Marcus. Had such a good night's sleep at my apartment. Thank you for handling everything. I love you so much. Can't wait to marry you in 3 days. His response came 20 minutes later. Love you too, babe. Your mom doing okay? I wanted to vomit. Instead, I texted back a heart emoji and got to work. I called Victoria around noon. She answered on the third ring, her voice sugary sweet. Hey, how's your mom? She's good. Actually, that's why I'm calling. She's having another good day, and I was thinking, would you want to come over tonight, like old times? I feel like I've barely seen you, and I miss my best friend. The pause on the other end was almost imperceptible. Oh, Nat, I'd love to, but I have this work thing. Please, I let my voice crack just a little. I'm getting married in 3 days, and I feel so disconnected from everything. I need you. Another pause, then, of course, yeah, I'll be there at 7. She arrived with a bottle of champagne and her signature fake smile. We sat in my mom's living room while my mother slept upstairs, and Victoria played the role of supportive best friend flawlessly. I still can't believe you're getting married. Marcus is such a great guy. He really is, I agreed, watching her carefully. I don't know what I would have done without him these past few months, or you, honestly. You two have been incredible. Something flickered across her face. Guilt? Pride? That's what friends are for. And you've been spending so much time with him on the wedding planning. I hope it hasn't been too much trouble. No trouble at all, she smiled, and I saw it then. The smugness, the satisfaction of a woman who thinks she's gotten away with something. He's actually really fun to hang out with. We've become pretty close. I noticed. I took a sip of my champagne. He mentioned you two did the cake tasting together, and the final venue walkthrough, and the rehearsal dinner planning. Someone had to do it, she shrugged. You were busy with your mom. Right, busy watching her die while you were fucking my fiancé in my bed. I didn't say that, of course. Instead, I said, I'm just so grateful. Seriously, Victoria, you're going to be the most important person at my wedding, besides Marcus, obviously. Her smile widened. I'm honored. We spent another hour talking about the ceremony, the reception, how beautiful everything would be. She asked if I'd finished my vows. I told her I had, that they were really personal and emotional. I'd worked on them for weeks. That was a lie. I'd written something entirely different the night before. After Victoria left, I sat down with my laptop and finalized my plan. The wedding ceremony was at 2 p.m. The reception followed immediately after at the same vineyard. I'd already spoken to the venue coordinator that morning, telling her I had a special surprise for the guests and needed the AV system set up with a projector and screen. It's a slideshow, I'd explained. Photos of Marcus and me throughout our relationship. Really sentimental. She'd loved the idea. The next 2 days were a masterclass in deception. I played the excited bride perfectly. I confirmed details with vendors, thanked Marcus for being so supportive, gushed to my mom about how lucky I was. Marcus was attentive in that performative way cheaters are when they're trying to ease their guilt. He brought me coffee, asked about my mom, told me how beautiful I'd look in my dress. Each kindness felt like a knife in my chest, but I smiled through it all. Victoria sent me a text the night before the wedding. Tomorrow's your big day. You deserve all the happiness in the world. Love you. I stared at that message for a full minute before responding. Love you too. See you tomorrow. The morning of the wedding, my mom was awake and alert. A small miracle. The hospice nurse helped me get her dressed and into the wheelchair. She looked fragile but determined, her eyes bright with tears. You look so beautiful, baby, she whispered as I put on my dress. I did look beautiful. The dress was ivory lace with a long train, fitted perfectly, the kind of dress you dream about wearing. My makeup was flawless, my hair was in soft curls pinned with my grandmother's vintage hair clips. I looked like a woman who was about to have the happiest day of her life. "Mom," I said quietly, kneeling beside her wheelchair, "something's going to happen today at the ceremony. Something bad. But I need you to trust me, okay?" Her eyes searched my face. "Natalie." "I found out Marcus has been cheating on me with Victoria the whole time you've been sick. I'm not canceling the wedding. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what they did." My mother's face went through several emotions: shock, rage, grief, before settling on something fierce and proud. She gripped my hand with surprising strength. "You do what you need to do, baby. I'll be right there with you." The ceremony was supposed to start at 2 p.m. Guests began arriving at 1:30. I watched from the bridal suite window as 200 people filed into the vineyard garden, taking their seats in the white chairs arranged in perfect rows. My coworkers, Marcus's family, our friends, Victoria's parents who'd known me since college. Victoria arrived at 1:45, wearing a stunning burgundy dress, her role as maid of honor displayed proudly. She hugged guests, laughed, played the part of the supportive best friend. Marcus was already at the altar with his groomsmen, looking nervous but handsome in his tuxedo. At 1:55, the wedding coordinator knocked on my door. "Natalie, it's time." I took one last look in the mirror, then I picked up my phone, opened the file I'd prepared, and sent it to the venue's AV system. "Let's go," I said. The music started, the doors opened, every guest stood and turned to watch me walk down the aisle with my mother wheeled beside me, her hand gripping mine. I looked straight ahead at Marcus, at his smile, at the future we were supposed to have together, and I smiled back. I reached the altar, and my mother's wheelchair was positioned to the side. Marcus took my hands, his eyes glistening with what I'm sure he thought were tears of joy. The officiant, a kind older man who'd known Marcus's family for years, smiled warmly at us. "Dearly beloved," he began, "we are gathered here today to witness the union of Marcus and Natalie in holy matrimony." I let him get through the opening remarks, the standard speech about love and commitment. I could feel Victoria's eyes on me from where she stood as maid of honor, just 3 feet away. I didn't look at her. Not yet. "At this time," the officiant continued, "the bride and groom will share their personal vows. Marcus, would you like to begin?" Marcus cleared his throat and pulled out a folded piece of paper from his jacket pocket. His hands were shaking slightly. "Natalie," he started, his voice thick with emotion, "from the moment I met you, I knew you were special. You're the strongest, most compassionate person I've ever known. These past few months have shown me exactly who you are, someone who sacrifices everything for the people she loves. I promise to honor you, to support you, and to love you through every challenge life throws at us. You're my best friend, my partner, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of your love." Several guests dabbed at their eyes. I heard Victoria's mother sniffle from the third row. I smiled at Marcus and squeezed his hands. "That was beautiful," I said softly. Then I turned to the officiant. "Before I share my vows, I have a special presentation I'd like to show everyone, a celebration of our relationship." The officiant looked slightly confused. This wasn't in the program, but he nodded. "Of course." I gestured to the AV technician I'd briefed that morning. The large projection screen behind the altar flickered to life. "I spent the past few days putting together something special," I announced, projecting my voice so all 200 guests could hear me clearly. "A timeline of our love story. I think you'll all find it very illuminating." Marcus's face showed confusion. Victoria shifted uncomfortably. The first image appeared on the screen, a photo of Marcus and me from our first date 3 years ago. Sweet, innocent. "This is where it all began," I narrated. "Two people who thought they'd found forever." The next few photos cycled through our relationship. Vacations, holidays, the proposal, each image accompanied by dates. Then, the screen changed. A bank statement appeared, dated 4 months ago, a charge for $385 at the Riverside Hotel, the same night I'd slept at my mother's bedside while she vomited from chemo. Marcus's face went white. "This is interesting," I said conversationally, as if I were commenting on the weather. "See, I was confused by this charge because I definitely wasn't at a hotel that night, so I did some digging." The next slide showed text messages, Marcus's number and Victoria's number clear as day at the top of the screen. Victoria, room 342, I'm already here. Marcus, on my way, told Natalie I had a work dinner. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. I heard Victoria's mother sniffle from the third row. I smiled at Marcus and squeezed his hands. "That was beautiful," I said softly. Then I turned to the officiant. "Before I share my vows, I have a special presentation I'd like to show everyone, a celebration of our relationship." More text messages, dozens of them. The explicit ones I'd edited for general audiences, but their meaning was crystal clear. "Marcus, I can't stop thinking about last night. Victoria, same. When can I see you again? She's staying with her mom all week. Marcus, tomorrow night, my place." The screen showed the date, the same week my mother had started losing her ability to walk unassisted. I heard my mother's voice from her wheelchair, strong and clear despite her frailty. "You son of a bitch." Marcus tried to speak, but I held up my hand. "There's more. Everyone, please hold your questions until the end of the presentation." The next slide was the recording. I'd converted the audio to a waveform with timestamps. I let it play for exactly 30 seconds, just enough for everyone to hear Victoria's voice saying she's so exhausted she barely notices anything anymore, followed by unmistakable sounds of intimacy. Victoria made a strangled noise. "Natalie, please." "Sit down, Victoria," I said sharply. "You wanted to be part of this wedding so badly. You're going to see it through." Her face crumbled, but she didn't move from her position. I advanced to the next slide, the jewelry store receipt for $2,400. This is particularly special. Marcus bought Victoria a bracelet with our joint savings account, the account we were using for our honeymoon. Marcus's brother, standing as best man, took a visible step away from him. "The affair started 5 months ago," I continued, my voice still eerily calm. "Right after my mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. While I was helping her use the bathroom because she was too weak to stand on her own, they were in my bed. While I was crushing pills and trying to get her to eat anything that wouldn't make her sick, they were planning romantic dinners. While I was researching hospice care and filling out DNR forms, they were discussing how emotionally unavailable I'd become." I finally looked at Victoria. Her mascara was running down her face in black streaks. "You were my best friend," I said, and for the first time my voice cracked. "I trusted you with everything. I asked you to be my maid of honor. I told you things I never told anyone. And you looked me in the eye, hugged me, and told me you'd take care of everything while you were sleeping with my fiancé. I'm sorry. Natalie, I'm so sorry. You're sorry you got caught," I cut her off. "You told Marcus to just get through the wedding and you'd figure the rest out after. You called me a hospice nurse like it was an insult. My mother is dying, and you used that as an opportunity to fuck my fiancé." I turned to Marcus, who looked like he might be sick. "And you proposed to me. You said vows about honoring me. You knew exactly what you were doing, and you did it anyway. You let me plan a future with you while you were planning a future with her." He opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but I do love you. You love the person you thought I was, the fun, carefree version that existed before my mother got sick. You didn't love me enough to stay faithful when things got hard, and that tells me everything I need to know." I looked out at the guests, many of whom were openly crying. "I want everyone here to know exactly what kind of people you're looking at. These two carried on a 5-month affair while I was caring for my dying mother. They used my grief as cover for their betrayal. They spent my money, used my home, and made plans for my wedding while planning to continue their affair after the ceremony. I pulled off my engagement ring and held it up. This ring represents a promise that was broken the moment you decided she was worth more than our future. I dropped it on the ground. The sound of it hitting the wooden platform echoed in the absolute silence. The wedding is over, I announced. There will be no reception. Victoria, Marcus, you have exactly 5 minutes to get off this property before I call the police and have you removed for trespassing. Victoria was full-on sobbing now. Please, Natalie, can we talk about this? Get out. My mother's voice rang out again. You heard my daughter. Both of you, leave now. Marcus's father, a stern man I'd always respected, stood up from the front row. Marcus, go. Don't make this worse than it already is. Marcus looked at me one more time, his face a mask of devastation and shame. I'm sorry, he said weakly. I don't care, I replied. Victoria tried to approach me, but my mother wheeled herself between us. Don't you dare, she hissed. You used my daughter's love for me as a weapon. Get out of here before I run over your foot. They left, Marcus practically running, Victoria stumbling in her heels, both of them disappearing through the vineyard gates as 200 guests watched in stunned silence. When they were gone, I turned to face everyone. I'm sorry you had to witness that, but I needed you all to know the truth. I needed witnesses. The bar is still paid for and the food is still coming. If you'd like to stay and celebrate my liberation instead of my marriage, you're welcome to. Then I walked off the altar, kicked off my heels, and headed straight for the open bar. My mother wheeled after me and the nurse handed me a glass of champagne. To my daughter, my mother said loudly, raising her own glass, the strongest woman I know. Slowly, the guests began to move. Some left, clearly uncomfortable, but most stayed, and one by one they came up to me, not with pity, but with respect. Marcus's own mother hugged me and said, I'm so sorry, you deserved better than my son. Victoria's father, red-faced with shame, apologized profusely and left immediately. My coworkers rallied around me, my college friends formed a protective circle, and the party that was supposed to celebrate my wedding became something else entirely, a celebration of the fact that I'd chosen myself over people who'd betrayed me when I was at my lowest. It's been 2 years from that day, the day I burned my wedding to the ground and walked away free. My mother passed away peacefully 4 weeks after the would-be ceremony. I was holding her hand, reading her favorite poetry, when she smiled at me and said, You did the right thing, baby. You chose yourself. Then she took her last breath. For a long time, I thought I'd never recover from losing her or from that public disaster of a wedding. But I did. I started therapy, sold the apartment Marcus and I had shared, moved into a small place by the coast. It was quiet, simple, and exactly what I needed. No reminders of broken promises or shared bank accounts. I used the refund money from the canceled honeymoon to finish my mother's bucket list in her memory. Paris in the fall, the vineyards of Italy, sunrise at the Grand Canyon. And somewhere along the way, I started writing about what happened. I posted my story anonymously online, just like this, and it went viral. Millions of women messaged me saying they'd survived the same kind of betrayal, the same kind of heartbreak. That story turned into a blog, then into a book deal. Now I have a community of readers who remind me every day that choosing peace over chaos isn't weakness, it's power. As for Marcus and Victoria, let's just say karma has an impeccable sense of timing. 6 months after the ruined wedding, Marcus lost his job. Apparently, his company restructured, and by restructured, I mean found out about his little reputation after my story went viral. Victoria tried to launch a wedding planning business. Yes, you heard that right, but most clients ghosted when they learned her name. She moved in with Marcus briefly before the two of them broke up for good. Rumor has it she caught him cheating on her with someone from his new office. Last I checked, they both live in the same small town, separately, miserably. Marcus drinks too much. Victoria works nights as a hostess at a restaurant she used to post about never being broke enough to work in. And me? I'm doing better than ever. I moved across the country, started a small real estate firm, and met someone new last year. His name is Daniel. He's calm, funny, and kind in that quiet, consistent way that doesn't need to be performed for an audience. I told him everything about what happened with Marcus and Victoria before we ever got serious. He just nodded and said, "You didn't let it make you cruel. That's rare." We're not rushing anything. I don't need another grand white dress moment. I've learned that love doesn't need an audience, only honesty, loyalty, and peace. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, I still think about that vineyard, about how my life imploded in front of 200 people. Back then, I thought it was the end, but it wasn't. It was the start. The start of a life where I'm no longer the woman waiting for someone else's approval, love, or loyalty. Now, I'm the woman who knows her worth, the one who set fire to her own fairy tale and built something real from the ashes. And honestly, it's never felt better to be the villain in someone else's story, when you know damn well you were the hero in your own.